Gouging Fire is one of the newest Paradox Pokemon introduced not too long ago in Gen 9 with the Indigo Disc DLC. Gouging Fire is quickly proven to be a great Pokemon in the Gen 9 Overuse metagame with its incredible offensive typing, great stats and amazing move pool. Gouging Fire is currently ranked an A tier Pokemon in Gen 9 OU, but has been getting more shine recently thanks to the ban of Archaludon. The dominance of rain teams were a big nuisance for Gouging Fire, but with these teams taking a big blow, Gouging Fire has shown the big threat it can be, especially by carefully adapting to the evolving metagame and being able to handpick its counters. So let's discuss what makes Gouging Fire such a problematic Pokemon in Gen 9 Overused. So Gouging Fire, it might potentially get the ban hammer. There's a post right here basically going over the suspect reasoning for Gouging Fire. I will not be reading through all of this, but I will link it down below if you would like to read it for yourself. So Gouging Fire, still no sprite for the new Pokemon, but it is what it is. I will edit in one myself to make it more visually appealing. Let's go over Gouging Fire itself first. You know, the qualities that make it stand out, traits, and you know, the different sets and counterplay to this Pokemon and how it can kind of get around its counters. So this Pokemon has some great stats, there's no going around that. It has a great bulk first of all, you know, and it has, you know, 115 base attack stat is below average these days, but it's still solid. You have a good 91 base speed stat. You know, Dragon Fire is an incredible offensive typing. There's really no mono typing that resists this. There are exceptions in the tier, like Primarina for example, which we'll get into in a second. But yeah, great offensive typing. It has some great moves, most notably Dragon Dance, which allows it to somewhat offset its below ideal speed stat and its below average attack stat by turning it into a great setup sweeper. Can make great use of its bulk to set up multiple Dragon Dances. Also Morning Sun, which makes it bulk even more annoying because it can just heal up and set up multiple Dragon Dances. You have Flare Blitz as an incredible step move. You know, for Dragon Step it does lag a little bit, which is why you often don't really see Dragon Step. The best it got is Outrage or Dragon Claw. Outrage is super easy to take advantage of because it locks you in, of course. And Dragon Claw is, you know, has good base power, but tends to fall behind compared to a lot of the other moves these days. Then you have Skill Shot, which is kind of unnecessary with Dragon Dance already boosting your speed, and you know, it's not really a reliable move if you are not using loaded dice. Now this is why on these, you know, pure offensively oriented sets, you will often see Earthquake instead of a Dragon Step, just for strong coverage with Pokemon like Heatran and Garganacl for a lot of damage, for example. And you know, for item, have to do boots or booster energy to get an instant attack boost upon entering the field, make it even more stronger. Common and useful items on this set. This is not really what makes or breaks this Pokemon. That's really this set, but we'll get into that in a second because we have to talk about Choice Band first. This is exclusively used on Sun teams. With this spread, you have one more speed than your attack, which gives you a speed boost on the photosynthesis proc when the sun is up. This can make it quite difficult to revenge kill, since outspeeding it is not the easiest task in the world unless you're using your own booster energy Pokemon or a fast Choice Scarfer. This Pokemon is also incredibly bulky, so one-hit killing is not that easy either. On these sets, it doesn't even run Flare Blitz. Its fire move choice is either Raging Fury or Heat Crash. Raging Fury, of course, does have that drawback of locking you in, just like Outrage, but it's less exploitable and it does some massive damage with a Choice Band boost and potential Terra Fire boost and the boost of Sun, capable of basically 2-hit killing anything in the game, except for some bulky water types like Latoso for example, or fire immune Pokemon like Heatran. Heat Crash is an alternative option on this set. You know, is a little more inconsistent than something like Raging Fury or Flare Blitz, but also does not inflict recoil damage. This is important to keep, you know, this Pokemon around longer in the match. It's already taking stealth orb damage potentially with, you know, since it does not have heavy duty boots. And that recoil damage of Flare will wear down quite fast. Now you could go even crazier on this set by, instead of making this specific EV spread, you could invest all of this HP into attack. This will give you an attack raise upon entering, and this will actually allow you to hit KO even the bulkiest of resists like Dondozo, which is quite insane. However, this does make it significantly easier to revenge kill. Now this defensive set is where it's getting really creative and what has actually raised the suspect test, if I'm not mistaken. Now obviously it's using more bulk on this set to make the most out of that, getting up multiple Dragon Dances, healing up with Morning Sun just like the offensive set, but even better on this one. Using leftovers for even more longevity, but it's using Breaking Swipe on this set, which is not a move you very commonly see in competitive because of its very low base power. With this move, it's actually able to beat and use Pokemon that would otherwise be able to check it at setup fodder, like Great Tusk for example, Dragonite, Ogerpon Wellspring, and even Dondozo is not able to break through Breaking Swipe Gouging Fire, because it can just lower those Pokemon's attack stat, tank a hit, set up with Dragon Dance and heal off the damage. With Terra Poison it can also avoid Toxic from Pokemon like Gliscor for example, or even Slowking Galar or Clodsire that might want to use a Toxic on a predicted Dragon Dance, which makes this Pokemon even more difficult to wear down. With Terra Ghost, it can actually beat Zamazenta one-on-one, which could otherwise easily set up Iron Defense and tank hits from that Pokemon, and of course it doesn't really care about Breaking Swipe. With Covert Cloak as its item of choice, it can beat Garganacl one-on-one. However, it cannot of course beat everything with just the changing of one Terra type or one item. It has to choose which Pokemon it wants to beat, and it will still lose to the other Pokemon. There are also Pokemon that can take it on regardless of what it is using, like Primarina for example, which can take both Flare Blitz and Dragon Step and doesn't really care that much about Earthquake. Cursed Garganacl was also able to beat it depending on its set. Heatran can beat it depending on the set. Skeledirge as well. Earth Power Landers, which has seen a tick in usage lately, does also, you know, can also beat the Breaking Swipe set. So there is counterplay to this, and it cannot beat everything with one set, which is why I think this Pokemon is not necessarily broken. To my knowledge, there's also not an insane win rate this Pokemon has in tournaments or on high ladder, which makes it very oppressive. Like for example, we had that with Archaludon, which on rain teams had an insanely high win rate and usage rate in SPL, which was part of the reason it got suspect tested. That's not really the case with Gouging Fire. So basically what I would say, I don't think this Pokemon is ban worthy. It's a strong Pokemon for sure, and a threatening Pokemon that you just have to keep in mind when making a team. And while it is true that it can beat certain counterplay to it by adapting and using certain items of Terra types, there can be an argument made that you would have to run 2 checks to this Pokemon to reliably beat it, you know, when facing against it. But the Gouging Fire player also has to make an important choice. If it wants to beat Garganacl, it would have to use you know, Covert Cloak, which really takes away from other items it can use, like Heavy Duty Boots, and with movesets as well. If you want to use Breaking Swipe, you cannot beat Heatran. If you want to use Earthquake, you cannot beat Dragonite, regardless of Terra type. So I don't think this Pokemon is broken, in my opinion. But let me know your thoughts about Gouging Fire in the comments. Do you think it should be banned? And, you know, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.